We'll have our lecture on the clock. Draw a clock that's almost as big as your sheet of paper, but leave room to write on the outside edges of the clock. Draw a circle with 12 numbers like a clock. We've spoken in the conference about hierarchy, and we have come to the conclusion together that God is a single being with the infinite capacity to be himself or to be herself anywhere, anytime that he desires to be. And so we understand that God has manifestations, expressions of himself throughout cosmos, which we call hierarchy. The purpose of hierarchy is for these points of God's consciousness to step down and make intelligible to other parts of life a certain facet or aspect of God's consciousness. Is there anyone here who truly does not understand this nature of hierarchy being the body of God throughout cosmos? That's a very important step. I want you to realize that you are a handful on this planet who have grasped this one principle, the principle of hierarchy. There are major hierarchies. There are hierarchies that are indispensable to our evolution. There are others that we will not even hear of or feel the vibration of until we are ascended. The hierarchies that we desire to speak of today are the hierarchies of the cosmic clock. We call them the 12 hierarchies of the sun. There is the great central sun, and then there are vast galaxies, innumerable galaxies revolving around that sun at different positions and distances from the sun. Scientists haven't seen even the pattern of this phenomena as yet because it's so large. We're only seeing a tiny speck in that pattern when we view our galaxy and all the neighboring galaxies that we can view. In this central sun, or center of this giant egg, it's a very interesting thing that the cosmos is egg-shaped. I have never heard this concept anywhere, but I saw it as it was given to me by the Elohim as I was meditating in the writing of Climb the Highest Mountain. The revelation of the egg shape of cosmos was so fantastic that I was ecstatic for hours. I was leaping all over the house. I was looking up encyclopedias, pictures of eggs, to find out what eggs look like inside. All types of eggs. It was just a very amazing experience. Because when God gives a revelation, you experience what is revealed. It's not just as if I were repeating it to you now. I'm using words, I'm repeating a concept. But at that moment, I was experiencing the cosmic egg. And I just can't even put it into words what that experience is. You feel you won't be able to stay in your body. You just can't contain the revelation because it is so immense. So the point that is the center of the egg is the point from which God's consciousness radiates. And we speak of the 12 solar hierarchies as the 12 principles or the 12 virtues, which are the major divisions of God's consciousness as we are able to understand them. We see everything, of course, in time and space, and everything as God is and sees is infinitely dimensional. So for the purposes of description and using this information in our world on this planet, we talk in these terms. Please don't feel that I'm speaking in the absolute, but I'm speaking in a relative absolute, if you can understand this. It's as much of the absolute as we can understand in our present evolution. The 12 solar hierarchies, which we speak of, we use the same names as the 12 signs of the zodiac. But I don't want you to confuse the cosmic clock with any of the world's astrology, because the world has badly misused and confused its astrology and turned it upside down until today. It is actually one of the black sciences of the Black Brotherhood. It cannot be used as it is. And the Goddess of Liberty told me long ago, if I would refrain my consciousness from delving into the world's astrology or involving myself with it at all, she would one day reveal to me the divine astrology. So I have no background in the world's astrology whatsoever. and many of you who have a great deal of background may know a great deal more than I do about that subject. But God required a blank sheet of paper to write on to give this truth. And so I left that sheet of paper blank, and this is what we are given. On the clock, you put the hierarchy of Capricorn on the 12 o'clock line. You put the hierarchy of Aries on the 3 o'clock line. The hierarchy of Cancer is on the 6 o'clock line, and the hierarchy of Libra is on the 9 o'clock line. These four hierarchies sit on the four sides of the city four square. The city that is in the book of Revelation. These four hierarchies are the authority for the four planes of matter or the four planes of spirit. Those four planes correspond to man's four lower bodies. Man has four bodies, his etheric body. That body is under the hierarchy of Capricorn. He has a mental body, which is under the hierarchy of Aries. His emotional body is under the hierarchy of Cancer. And his physical body is under the hierarchy of Libra. Now, what do I mean when I say under the hierarchy of? I mean that the four lower bodies simply represent four different vibrations, four different frequencies of God's consciousness in matter. You could call them four octaves. We give names to these bodies corresponding to the four elements. They're not just those four elements, but those four elements are the names that we assign to these frequencies. God makes himself known to man through the etheric body as a frequency which we call fire. It is the highest frequency that we can know. Now, if you will draw a cross in your circle connecting Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, Libra, you'll have four quadrants in your circle. This shows that the year is divided into four quadrants and that the body of man is in four. And these are the four sides of the city, as well as the four sides of the Great Pyramid. Now, the mental body is one step down in frequency from the etheric. It is the air body. Now, coming back to what I said, what do I mean when I say the hierarchy is over these bodies? I mean that the hierarchy of Aries is comprised of, its fiery core is comprised of 144 million cosmic beings who ensoul the air plane or air consciousness of God and distribute that frequency throughout cosmos. It's like having a number of different electrical transformers and making electricity available at 220 or 440 or 110. These hierarchies are responsible for making God's energy available at a frequency which we call air or the mental body. Now, there are many, many beings, including our own ascended masters, you will see in this whole echelon of hierarchy who serve under the hierarchy of Capricorn or the hierarchy of Aries. But we're starting all the way in the center of the cosmic egg in the great central sun, and we're seeing who the first beings are outside of the central core of God's being. Now, let me remind you that again, the center of the egg is still the mater universe, mater or mother universe. It is still physical. Therefore, God is in his highest concentration as an energy source in the center of the cosmic egg, but he himself is not contained by that center or by that egg. God himself permeates the egg, but he is outside of the egg because he made the egg. So when the egg ascends, we will see more of God. But there is an infinity so vast that it goes beyond the beyond the beyond. So I didn't want you to feel that I thought that God was confined to the center of the cosmic egg. By no means. The water body under the hierarchies of Cancer, that is the third quadrant, and the physical body or the earth body under the hierarchy of Libra. North, south, east, and west you can put on your chart. The side of the north Who rules the side of the north? It is the Father aspect of the cube. So you put Father on the 12 o'clock line. The side of the east is ruled by the Son. That is the Christ, the Logos. And you see the Christ governs the mind or the mental body, where the Father governs the etheric body or the fire body. The mother principle is on the 6 o'clock line in Cancer, and she governs the feeling body or the water body. The Holy Spirit is on the 9 o'clock line, governing the physical or earth body. Thus the earth body is known as the temple of the Holy Spirit. If you will go a little bit further, you can say the fire body is the temple of our Father. Our God is a consuming fire. When we come right down to it, the concept of Father, that is the key concept, is always fire. The concept of the Christ is always illumination and wisdom, teaching, that is the mind. Fire is associated with the pattern or the blueprint, so we associate the Father's side of the city with the law of Moses that was etched by fire in the rock. It is the law of the entire cosmos that is set forth in the etheric or fiery body. It is the pattern of all things, of cells, of atoms, of plants, of trees. All patterns are etched in fire. And that is the purpose of the etheric body. Without an etheric body, you wouldn't hang together, because there would be nothing that would be a coordinate in the invisible realm that would hold a pattern for your identity. Your physical, emotional, and mental bodies simply follow the fiery design that the etheric body is. The mother is the master of the feelings. We associate with mother love and all of the qualities of mercy and compassion and understanding. We also associate with her sternness and wisdom and discipline, because in order to master the feelings, we must have a very acute sense of discipline. It's the difference between pouring water on a table or pouring it in a cup. The mother provides the cup, and therefore water has shape. It has form within the cup. If it doesn't have a cup, it's just blah. And that is what is happening to many of our humanity today. They are being taught that their feelings do not have to have discipline. They can just be and do whatever they feel like at a given moment, which could be any will-o'-the-wisp concept that comes floating by through the astral plane, through discarnates, through any stray thought of the mass consciousness. And people take great pride in saying, well, I'm doing what I feel like doing. I feel like it, so I'm doing it. But this does not imply the discipline that is necessary that we gain from the mother. The mother's love is so great that when her love enfolds us, we feel a natural desire to conform to the pattern of the Father from the etheric body. So you will notice that there is a polarity between the etheric body and the emotional body. By polarity, I simply mean they are opposite each other on the chart you are drawing. So the polarity between Father and Mother is seen between the etheric body and the emotional. Then the polarity between Christ and the Holy Spirit goes from the mental to the physical. Usually our feelings are the manifestation of subconscious patterns and desires. The subconscious mind is the lower etheric body. Hence, our feelings are often the products of things we know not of that suddenly come to the surface. Violent emotions, all types of emotions. So what we must do is purify the etheric body with the violet flame in order to have the perfect pattern manifest in the mother body, in the feeling body. When you have a good mind and a clear flow of energy, you can precipitate an idea into the physical. People of action, people who are able to go and act along the heart line, are able to precipitate. People who have a blockage in the emotional body can't precipitate from the mental to the physical. They have great ideas, but they can never get them around into form because the emotional body blocks the cycle. So it's very important, you see, that we have all of our four lower bodies in working order, like the four tires on a car, because they block each other's manifestation of the divine plan and the divine mission. Now, after you study the cosmic clock that I'm giving you in its entirety, you will be able to be your own psychologist and to analyze yourself and to see where your weaknesses are, where you're constantly stumbling, constantly having problems. This chart will analyze this for you and help you to know how to decree on a specific weakness, how to overcome it, how to put it in the flame, how to be objective about it. Because you must always remember that you are the Christ standing in the center of this circle. And the circle of this clock is the circle of your awareness. And either you are manifesting the divinity of God's consciousness through His 12 solar hierarchies, or you are going to be manifesting a perversion of those hierarchies in the human consciousness. It will become very clear to you which is the case. And when you see this, you simply stand in the center of this circle and say, well, I don't want to be that manifestation over there. I demand that it be consumed, and I demand that the correct concept replace it. And you realize that since all of cosmos is built upon this same plan, that you have the same authority that God does. God stands in the central sun and commands these 12 hierarchies, and they expand His awareness of purity, of His qualities. You are a co-creator with God, standing in the center of your own circle, and it is up to you to decide each hour and each day what you will be manifesting on the periphery of being. When that periphery becomes perfected, you begin passing the initiations of Christhood, and then of the Buddha, and then your ascension, and soon you find that you are manifesting your own cosmos with hierarchies that emanate from your central sun. So this is the vast opportunity for evolution that you have if you will diligently practice the science of the cosmic clock, which I'm now going to unfold to you in another aspect. It's polluted. It's like a muddy stream. And according to the type of human consciousness you have, this will be the color and the vibration of that stream. That stream is flowing through you, through your body, and it goes out into the mass sea, which we call the mass consciousness. So the mass consciousness is made up of the entire conglomerate of people's subconscious patterns, feelings, and conscious ones, which are impressed upon God's pure stream of energy. So suddenly you realize, when you have this spotlight of this science given to you, that all is not quite well within this force field of this circle of your awareness, and that you are responsible for what is present within you, because it is making its mark and impact on the world surely and inevitably as God's energy flows from your presence through you. What are you going to do about it? You're going to study this clock and see exactly what the perversions of the God flames are, and then you're going to begin to invoke the God flames to displace the energy that has perverted them. In other words, you would invoke God power from the hierarchy of Capricorn to consume and reverse all substance of criticism, condemnation, and judgment. And the reason witchcraft is on that line too is because Saint Germain says that criticism, condemnation, and judgment are witchcraft. When you say, now that man is an old meathead and I have no use for him, you are putting a hex on that man. That is witchcraft. You are stamping him with your limited consciousness, and you are saying that is what he is. And you're putting a prison on that person, and if he's strong, he'll overcome it. If enough people say it, if enough people consider that Joe Blow over here is a meathead, he's going to be a meathead, because everybody is giving their energy to make him be that. And he has absolutely no possibility, unless he has mastery, to come out from under that pattern. So you see how the mass consciousness, in its weavings and entanglements, snares everyone to everyone else's human opinions and concepts. So that is how we all are practicing witchcraft, and this is why witchcraft has become so popular today, is because people are already practicing it, accepting it and tolerating it by their consciousness, their judgments they place on one another. And so we have left ourselves wide open for more malicious forms of witchcraft. Now, if you decide you want to be a focus of God love under the hierarchy of Aquarius, you call to that hierarchy, you invoke that flame, and you ask to have consumed and transmuted in your etheric body all hatred and mild dislike. And the reason black magic is on that line is because Saint Germain says that hatred is black magic. The energy of hatred is so virulent that when you have a point in your consciousness of hatred for any part of life, you are constantly feeding energy of the most malicious form to that life stream, and hence practicing black magic. Now, under the hierarchy of Pisces, you find that the perversion of God mastery is doubt, fear, human questioning, and all records of death. Every time you have ever died on the planet, that record of that death is recorded in your etheric body on the 2 o'clock line. Jesus used the flame of mastery to prove the unreality of death. A perfect example, of course, is Peter walking on the water. He lost the flame of mastery because he allowed doubt and fear, and even human questioning. Peter was always questioning things. When Jesus wanted to wash his feet, he didn't want him to wash his feet because he didn't understand why. He was always questioning. Whatever the ritual or the sacred practice of the moment might be, Peter had to know why. And it was his outer consciousness, his human intellect, that had doubt and fear of the Christ. So do we let our intellect, our outer mind, our outer brainwashing, our society, the times, influence what we know within our soul and within our heart? That's the kind of human questioning we're talking about. It's not wrong to ask questions and to want to know why and to have things explained. But when the living Christ is blazing the tangible flame of his being in front of you, you don't start questioning it. And that living Christ is standing within you, blazing his flame and speaking to you. And this action of constant questioning from the human level is what tears down the flame of God mastery. Now you can go around the whole clock and see what the perversions are. I'd like to go on with my explanation of this science and let you make these correlations because they're plainly written. In section A of the 604 decree are the masters who have volunteered to serve under the 12 hierarchies on this planet to assist us in overcoming these 12 phases of human error. So you read that and you say to yourself, 12 o'clock, beloved great divine director and the 7 archangels are working under the cosmic hierarchy of Capricorn to help mankind expand the flame of God power and to overcome all momentums of criticism, condemnation, and judgment. That is that key, and you can go right through around the clock. Now I would like to explain to you that whatever sign you are born under, this goes back to the world's astrology now. If you're born, let's say as an Aries, between the end of March and the end of April, the hierarchy under whose emanation you entered the world of form would be the hierarchy of Aries. This would mean that it is your function in hierarchy to focus the flame of God control for the planet, for your family, for yourself. Depending on your level of mastery, there are some Aries who have absolutely no awareness of God control, and they are completely caught up in the human aspect or human perversion of the flame, which you will see listed as conceit, deceit, arrogance, and ego. The 3 o'clock line in the untransmuted Aries is the seat of human pride. That is where, under that hierarchy, that Lucifer fell, because he fell through human pride. So you can position yourself, let's say, on a scale of numbers of where you think you are in your hierarchy. How much God control do you have? How much pride do you have? If you have too much pride, you realize that you're not out picturing the cosmic hierarchy of Aries, but you are out picturing its perversion in the false hierarchy. If you are truly desirous of being God, you will immediately surrender. If you have a little trouble surrendering, it's because a little bit more weight of your consciousness is still aligned with the side of the ego. This is true of every line of the clock, even though the ego isn't listed on every line. How swiftly you can surrender is determined by whether or not the Christ or the divine ego occupies the center of your consciousness, or the human ego, where your allegiance is going to be placed. You can analyze this for yourself in your own secret place of the Most High. You can commune with your Christ self. You can honestly evaluate yourself on the 12 lines of the clock. Where do you stand? How much God vision do you have on the 10 o'clock line? Are you using all of the energy from the hierarchies of Scorpio in selfishness and self-love, in patterns of involvement with the self, whether it's yourself or someone else's self? Or are you using the creativity of Scorpio to channel your energies in the divine vision for all of humanity in bringing forth beauty and creative concepts in every field? According to which aspect of Scorpio you are embracing, so you will find that your God vision is. And so you will find that your development of your third eye is, because the development of the third eye is under the hierarchy of Scorpio. Now you see why we have so many blind people and so many people whose third eyes are totally insensate. Now you may not see with your third eye directly into the next realm, but you may have an awareness, a keen awareness that comes from inner sight. We measure our standards against the standards of the Ascended Masters. And we all want to be better, we all want to have a greater activity in the third eye chakra. This can come much more quickly than you even dream of by using this system of clearing your electronic belt each day. This decree, of course, is an excellent one to use. And it's very easy to give. You can follow these directions. You call to the 12 hierarchies, the entire spirit of the Great White Brother in the World Mother in Section A, to seize, bind, and lock all of the substance in Section B, and all that is not the light, and to remove all that opposes or attempts to interfere with the fulfillment of my, and then all of the list of God qualities in Section C. This is how you do your own personal flushing out each day. Now, whatever sign you are under, that is your birth date. Now here comes the place where we will draw a chart, and it would be best to have a new sheet of paper with a new clock. Just draw another circle and 12 more lines, and place your birth date on the 12 o'clock line. Now remember that I said all cycles begin in Capricorn. This is why you are putting your birthday, no matter what sign you're under, whether you're a Cancer or a Leo or whatever you are, your birth date on this chart goes on the 12 o'clock line, because that is where life began for you. That is your beginning. So if your birthday is July 1st, all right, you're a Cancer, you put July 1st and the year, 19 so-and-so, on the 12 o'clock line. Now this means that in the cycle of the planet Earth, which is just another body like you, except it's larger, the body Earth, when you were born, was in the cycle of Cancer, the house of Cancer. But you mark your birth with a hierarchy of Capricorn. So immediately you have two cycles that you will always have to keep track of all of your life, where the Earth is and where you are in relationship to the Earth. So you are this little cycle of awareness that is evolving independently of the planet that you are on. Both influences influence your life. Therefore, in July, on July 1st, you will begin your year. That is your new year. Just like the Earth has its new year, we count time January 1st. That is your new year. And so you see that your tests from July 1st to August 1st will always be the test of God power. I'm going back to the clock now. And these tests will be given to you under the hierarchy of Capricorn. You will notice when you start becoming aware of yourself that past energies that come up for transmutation will most likely be the energies of criticism, condemnation, and judgment. If there's any time of the year that you have a tendency to criticize, it will be stepped up and amplified in that particular month. Simply because that energy is coming out of your subconscious, because the door of your subconscious is open to Capricorn and to that cycle for that 30-day period. So it's an optimum time for you to amplify God power. It's an optimum time for you to transmute criticism, condemnation, and judgment. You can use other decrees to do this. 10.14, the Astrea decree, it says, lock your cosmic circle and sword of blue flame in, through, and around my 4 lower bodies, my electronic belt, my entire conscious being and world. And you would put an insert there and say, and all criticism, condemnation, and judgment, and all witchcraft. You might do that every day for that 30-day period. August 1st, you would be writing then on the 1 o'clock line when you make this clock. You put exactly 1 month later your birth date. So for this person of July 1 on the 12th, it's August 1 on the 1 o'clock line, September 1 on the 2, October 1st on the 3rd, and so on, right around the clock. Now you have your calendar for the year. You look at the 2 o'clock line, and you say, well, September 1st, I'm going to have to meet the tests of God mastery. So you're watching out September 1st for all fear, doubt, human questioning, and records of death. And you work diligently with your invocations each day to transmute these human conditions. Now, as soon as that cycle closes, you will find a complete absence of fear and doubt, and suddenly you are seized with patterns of the human ego on the 3 o'clock line. And suddenly your pride will wax very strong, and you'll find that all kinds of past momentums of the assertion of the ego will be coming to the fore in your consciousness. Now, when you understand these cycles, you become an initiate of the Great White Brotherhood, when you understand and apply them. Until you are, you're just a cork on the sea, bouncing along, out picturing your electronic belt. And by the way, the electronic belt is the term we use for this subconscious that has the pattern of the clock. It is situated actually in your force field from the navel down, going beneath your feet. It's like a giant kettle drum. It's like one of these signs you see that has a cement bottom. We all have this cement bottom that is our momentum of human consciousness. And that is the weight that keeps us earthbound. When you transmute that, there's nothing that can hold you to the earth, so you rise into the air as Jesus did. It actually has a weight, a karmic weight. And the lords of karma determine how many people can evolve on the planet by the total number of the karmic weight of all life streams. So the more people transmute their electronic belts, the more room there will be on the planet for others to embody to work out their karma. As I was saying before, people aren't transmuting their karma, so they don't want anybody else on Earth, because they sense the Earth is getting too heavy. Heavy in the sense that the vibrations are heavy. They can't stand the vibrations of the people. So we have the zero population growth theory. Now, the influences of your birth year then can be charted around the clock, and they will never vary. Every year of your life, in the 12-month period, you will always be facing these 12 aspects. And if you can go through a 30-day period and really genuinely feel that you've outpictured the God quality, and that you've plunged the sword of the Divine Mother into the dragon of the human aspect, you really have a sense of victory. You've gone forward on the path. Next year, when you come around to that same position on the clock, you're going to go much deeper into your past. Thousands of years back, you're going to start transmuting that energy. I have had the experience of going back several hundred thousands of years through these records by following this science year after year. And it is such a magnificent experience to finally get to the bottom of that cement clunk that's around us. And you get so you just can't wait for these cycles to come up. You can't wait to put them into the flame. Now I'm going to give you another cycle that corresponds to your birthday. It is the cycle of the year. Just as each year has these 12 aspects, every year itself will be qualified with a different hierarchy, and this goes according to age. And everyone at a certain age will have the same test. This cannot vary. Okay, let us say that you are 25 years old. If you count from 1 to 25 around the clock, you'll wind up on the 1 o'clock line. Around twice for 24, and then 1 makes 25. So in your 25th year, starting with your 25th birthday, the entire year will be a test of God love. And the entire year will be an opportunity to transmute hatred, mild dislike, and irritation. Now the year you are in is very noticeable. It's very apparent to you when you suddenly know these cycles, what you are going through and why you are going through them. It is important in your year, whatever year you are in, that you do not fail that test. Fail anything else, but don't fail the test of the year. In other words, uphold the torch of the year that you're in and strive at all costs to hold it high, because it only comes once every 12 years. If you're 24 and on the 12 o'clock line, you have an opportunity at age 24, which will not be yours again till age 36, when you come back to the 12 o'clock line. And if you leave it undone, you may find that it is much, much heavier 12 years later. In fact, you may have so missed the cycle that you can't regain it in this life. So when you come on the path, it doesn't matter that you didn't know this yesterday, but if you know it today, don't allow yourself to go down into the human aspect. Now think of what you did when you were, let's say, 16. 16 is the 4 o'clock line. 4 o'clock line is the hierarchy of Taurus. You will notice that its perversion is disobedience, stubbornness, and defiance of the law. Now, how many people at age 16 decided they were going to fly the coop, go off, and do anything they felt like doing? Because we didn't know the law. Now, 12 years later brings you to age 28. So when you are 28, you'll have the opportunity to transmute all that substance. And you'll start feeling very rebellious again, very stubborn, very defiant. If you know the law, you'll say, here it is. Here's my little lump of clay that I sent out when I was 16. Now I have this great opportunity to transmute it. And in that year, by the power of love, you will love God so much that you will want to be obedient to Him. Your love for God becomes so great that you want every cell of your being to conform to this fantastic pattern that He has put in the cosmos. And all of a sudden that love is so overwhelming that you begin to understand the honoring of God as the flame in Father and in Mother. That's why we had that as one of the 10 Commandments. Because our parents held the focus of Alpha and Omega for us. Even if we think they don't know what they're talking about, and perhaps actually they have been unjust, it is the flame of Alpha and Omega to which we are obedient. If we don't find that in manifestation, in our earthly parents, we still have the great desire to honor the Father and the Mother, in Alpha and Omega, in Helios and Vesta, in the Ascended Masters, and perhaps in people that we have come to respect. So it would be a good idea if when you leave here today, you would make a chart, a brief chart. Let's say take a page for each year of your life and see what you can remember of things that happened to you in those years, just generally speaking. Maybe you can't remember too much, but there might be one major event that occurred when you were 3 or when you were 5 or when you were 7. Maybe a very traumatic experience occurred to you at that age. And if it hasn't been decreed about and put in the flame, it may still be a very heavy weight in your subconscious. According to in what year it occurred, you will see under what hierarchy, which hierarchy has the dominion over that experience. If it happened on the 8 o'clock line, that would be when you were 8 years old. On the 12 o'clock line, you're 0. That's the day of your birth. So your first birthday is the 1 o'clock line. Second birthday is the 2. So the 8 o'clock line, you were 8 years old. Maybe somebody hit you over the head. Maybe something terrible happened to you, and there's a consciousness of injustice deeply buried in your consciousness about this thing that happened then. You'll notice that that is the line of God justice. So you should appeal to the hierarchies of God justice, who are Virgo, and ask that to be consumed, cause, effect, record, and memory. Give a half hour of violet flame decrees. Put the whole experience in the flame and be satisfied that it is consumed. Don't ever talk about it again. Don't relate it again, because it's going to be reinforced every time you tell it. Put it in the flame and then realize that there is no injustice anywhere in the cosmos. There is only justice. If this experience happened to you, it taught you a valuable lesson. if for no other reason, it gave you the opportunity now to transmute it. And that is an exercise in mastery. Did you have a question?
Yes. Do we count from 12 when we start counting?
Always start from 12, because the Capricorn is the beginning. Your first birthday, when you were 1 year old, is the 1 o'clock line. You were 0 years old when you were born on the 12 o'clock line. 12 months later, on the 1 o'clock line, you were 1 year old. If you were born in 1930, you put 1930 on the 12 o'clock line and just count 1931, 1932, 1933 all the way around, and you'll find out where you are in 1973. That's another way of counting it. So you see, we're all different, and we consider ourselves, perhaps we pride ourselves all in having very personal lives and very personal experiences. But when you get into the retreats of the Brotherhood, you find that at age 20, all of us had to undergo the exact same tests. Age 20, that is the 8 o'clock line. And so that will be the age of the testing of our sense of justice. 9 o'clock line, 21, the age of God reality. The age when, at 21, you're considered that you have the responsibility. If you have the flame of reality, you have mature judgment. And if you don't, you won't. Now the next cycle that I'd like to talk to you about, these are really the two major cycles that you always have to know, where you are in the month and where you are in your year. So if you're 21 years old and 3 months, in the year you would be on the 9 o'clock line, because 21 is the 9 o'clock line. Just count back 24, 23, 22, 21 gives you the 9 o'clock line. If your birthday was 3 months ago, then you would put that date on the 12 o'clock line, July, June, May. Let's say you were born April 1st. So April 1st you'd put on the 12 o'clock line. May 1st, June 1st, July 1st would put you on the 3 o'clock line in your cycle of months. So then you would see that according to your year, you have the tests of God reality. According to your month, you'll have the test of God control. You have to understand there are cycles within cycles within cycles within cycles, depending how exacting you want to be with the drawing of your chart. Each week, each day, each hour is an opportunity to amplify another aspect of God's consciousness. But it gets so burdensome you can't keep track of all these. So the major ones I want you to know, and there are 2 more I'm going to give you, are your birth year. You have to know what year you're in, or you just absolutely won't know why you're sick, what the tests are, and you just will flounder. It's like blindly beating the air. You give the whole decree book to get at one problem because you don't really know what the problem is. It's like taking the whole medicine cabinet for a headache. You don't have a specific antidote for the problem if you don't keep track of your cycles. So is there anyone who doesn't understand, first of all, the birth year and then the 12 months within the year? You all grasp that. That is 2 separate charts you keep on the same circle. Now, the next equally important will be the cycle of the planet Earth itself. What hierarchy is the Earth under now? It is under Cancer. We're in the summer solstice. We're at the 6 o'clock line of the Earth. We know that the entire planetary body will undergo, in these 3 months, the test of the emotions. This is why riots and demonstrations are always more prevalent in the summer. It's not just because it's hot, it's because people don't manifest emotional control. In the spring, they think twice. In the summer, they don't think at all. It's just emoting. It's just emotion. If you realize that, you want to refine that emotion and you want to make it feeling. You want to make it God's feeling. You want to put forth the feelings of God no matter what anybody else is doing. Now the next cycle that you want to be aware of will be the cycles of the moon. Because the moon has the greatest influence on our 4 lower bodies, and the moon changes approximately every 2.5 to 3 days. Now, the moon is a heavenly body that was designed by hierarchy to amplify the feelings of man or of God in man. In the golden ages and in the perfect manifestation, when man's consciousness is perfect, man stands upon the earth as we stood last night with Helios. We were amplifying the secret rays. The moon is intended to be a giant reflector. So as we stand here holding the focus for those secret rays, the moon amplifies them many thousands of times and pulls on all the bodies, the four lower bodies of the planet, especially the emotional body. The moon affects the water and the water body. So all over the earth then would be amplified the power of the secret rays by the action of the moon. Now what happens when man falls and is in the mass consciousness and his feelings are not the feelings of God, then that moon, which is the same reflector it always was, just like a giant mirror, starts reflecting the perversions of those qualities. So we can assume, because of the state of the mass consciousness and the state of the darkness of the planet, that when the moon is in the sign of Leo, the reflector of the moon will be amplifying ingratitude. Ingratitude will hit you like a wave for about 3 days. You can't think of a thing to be grateful for. You become very ungrateful for anything. The way to reverse that and to reverse the whole mass consciousness is to start counting your blessings when you awake in the morning and really expanding a feeling of gratitude for life, for God, for the air you breathe, for the food you eat, no matter what it is, and so on and so forth. Just think of everything that's ever happened to you that you can be grateful for, and with this sense of gratitude, give the violet flame, and then you'll start transmuting the records in your subconscious of all ingratitude. And so you establish a point of mastery in your emotional body and in the emotional body of the planet, because the cycles of the moon are the cycles of the planet. Something the masters want to impress upon you is that your mastery is always twofold. You have to be mastering your own circle of awareness, your own being, at the same time as you are mastering the planet. Somewhere, sometime, somehow you have contributed to the polluted stream of the mass consciousness in your life. Now you have the science that can unwind it and undo it. So we can't ascend until we have helped the whole planet gain mastery. And we help the planet by watching the sign of the sun and the moon. The sun went into Cancer June 21st. It goes into Leo July 22nd. So from now till July 22nd, we have the opportunity to hold the focus of harmony for the planet. Now if you do nothing else, if you pass no other test, until July 22nd, keep your harmony, because the whole earth depends on it. All of the cosmic masters are depending on some people who have this knowledge to do that very thing, to hold the harmony. If you can keep your peace and keep your harmony until that time, you'll find that we can avoid war, we can avoid depression, we can avoid riots, we can avoid murders and killings that occur so frequently in the summer because of lack of emotional control. Because of the amount of light you receive in this conference, you become a literal balloon of light. And this light is sealed as long as you keep your harmony. When you lose your harmony, it's like taking a pin and puncturing the balloon. All the light leaves your aura, and where does it go? It's lapped up by the astral forces, the demons, and those of darkness, because they can't perpetuate themselves without God's energy. They can't get that energy from God, because when they chose the left-handed path, they were cut off from God. So they have to get their energy from a secondary source. You are a secondary source, if you are inharmonious. So it's one thing to come to the Ascended Masters conclaves, it's another thing to decree. If you build up this great momentum of light, and then allow yourself to fail a test under one of the 12 hierarchies, you're going to lose that light, and you have to start all over again. Not only will you lose the light, but you'll have the karma for having given away the Ascended Masters' energies to the dark forces. Now do you see why there aren't millions of people at the conclave? Because millions of people can't be trusted to hold that light, so why should the Masters give it to them? So the Masters don't bring them here, because they can't trust these people to give them their light in dictations and to give them energy in decrees. The masters consider that there's greater strength in a smaller number of devotees who are determined to follow this science than in large numbers and masses of people who just use it to their own benefit and are here one day and gone the next. So I want to caution you then to watch how the forces are going to try and take your energy. When the moon is in Leo, they're going to try to steal your light through ingratitude. When the moon moves into Virgo, they will try to steal your light by a sense of injustice. Now somehow we tend to feel that it's all right to become upset, discordant, violent, angry, shout, rant, and rave if there's some injustice going on. If somebody has done something to offend our sense of justice, we can just break loose and absolutely tear them to pieces, whether verbally or physically, because we're justified in doing this, we think. But that sense of self-justification is the very thing that makes us lose all of our energy and our light. Because you're not right, and you're never right if you're inharmonious. It's all right to challenge injustice, but challenge it from the center of God awareness. Don't challenge it by losing your head and losing your emotions. And the best way to challenge injustice for the earth, for instance, injustice in our government or anywhere that you know that it's happening on a mass scale, is to decree. Sit home and decree for the flame of God justice to be expanded and demand that the hierarchies of Virgo and Lord Lanto take action to correct the situation. Now that is the correct way of demonstrating and the correct way of changing, social change. The Luciferians, the fallen ones, have gotten us into this idea where we think we have to release emotions to achieve justice. And of course, by the release of all that energy, especially from young people who unite in causes, and of course it's good to unite in causes for good things, but it's wrong to release discordant energy to get your way. And the dark ones have found that by instigating and really lighting the fire of a sense of injustice in young people, they can get them to lose all their energy. Now the dark forces value the energy of youth more than the energy of older people because it's more vital, it's more virile, it's new energy. So this is why their plots are so centered on the youth of the world. Because your energy is the energy they want. It takes 10 old people to make up the energy of one young man as far as the dark forces go. So if they can get that light, they can go across the world and do all kinds of treachery, perpetuate the war in the Middle East, keep Arabs hopping and fighting and Jews hopping and fighting and people in South Africa and all over the world just because somebody somewhere isn't holding the harmony. You can decide that if the moon, let's say, is in the 9 o'clock line, the moon is in Libra, let's say, and you notice that there's a tremendous wave of crime and treachery and intrigue that is showing up. You might want to give a whole decree session on various decrees, the stray Archangel Michael, the reverse the tide decrees, the Omni decrees, just to handle that specific condition that you're aware of. You may not know of anything specific, but you may get the vibration. Tremendous vibrations of organized crime or drug traffic, you get those waves when the moon is in Libra, because that is the sign of that intrigue and treachery. So you have to be sensitive. And in addition to being sensitive, you have to watch the news in the newspaper for your world decrees, and then watch your cycles of the moon and the sun. So if you know nothing else but the moon and the sun, you know what surely mankind will be tested in. I think we should have a little experiment while our moon is in Leo. It stays in Leo until the 3rd of July at 5:42. The 3rd of July will be Tuesday. So we have this opportunity to manifest our gratitude in this conference through singing, through loving the Masters, loving humanity. Actually, you'll probably be expressing more gratitude as a group than any other group on the planet at this time because of the hours a day you are putting into decrees and into this teaching. The whole conference is an expression of gratitude. So those are the key cycles that I want you to be aware of. 2 for the planet, 2 for yourself. Then we'll go into divisions of those cycles at the next lecture.